Hello and welcome to another Let's Play. Me, GamerWolfSix of the Smoke Room. Before we start, if you're interested in playing this game, you can get it for free on itch.io. And if you want to support the people that make this game and others, then you can go to Patreon. And also you get the earlier version, or the newest version earlier. So, on the last Let's Play, we met some familiar faces. That being the stag that sewed up the back of her head. Turns out he's gay as well. I'm starting to believe that there's something in the water turning all the frickin' frogs gay. And furries. Because, I mean, I know there aren't a ton of women out here, but everybody can't be gay, right? Even in the furry world. Right? Anyways. I'm gonna set my face. Oh, and we're planning to go to some place that knows about Masetta tribe people. Boyd's. Walking is a lot easier when I don't have to do it on an empty stomach. We're leaving the deepest parts of the forest behind, heading a little ways off the trail with Avery in tow. It's both a blessing and a curse. As the trees get sparser, I start feeling that familiar desert heat again. Avery, walking up front with Jebediah, seems to be feeling a bit better. He's singing, loudly at that. I wish I had half the energy he had right now. The bear and the kit fox haven't said a word since we left. Summertime, I'm jumping out and back into your skin. Okay. Murdoch hums along for a few bars, and I have to admit, Cliff was right about his voice. You know what too, eh? The elk swings his head around, nearly whacking Jebediah with his antlers. Old favorite of mine. I'm not sure I've ever heard it before. I'd love to play it for you when I get back on my paws with my guitar again. You play? Why, yes indeed. I tried once, couldn't get far. Not with these sausages of mine. Ooh. He wiggles his thick fingers. So, where exactly do your parents live, Avery? Oh, we're getting pretty close. This far off the main trail? The Hoogan's hard to find if you don't know where to look. Keep out unwanted visitors. Keeps out. Don't we qualify as unwanted visitors? Any friend of mine is welcome. Jebediah looks over his shoulder, back at us. Just mind your manners, and you'll be fine. His parents are the finest folks in this neck of the woods. Cliff's already shaking at the prospect. So exciting! I can't believe I'm about to enter an actual Masetta home. I'm more than a little worried about him. Or what he might say. Calm down, Clifford. You're a researcher, not a tourist. Takes a breath. Murdoch, is your camera still functional? It should work just fine. In layman's terms, everything still clicks the way it's supposed to. Splendid. You're awful excited about all this, aren't you? Of course, it's a once-in-a-lifetime chance. Well, their home isn't going anywhere anytime soon. And it's their life, you know. Cliff tilts his head. All I'm saying is, ease into it. Listen to what they gotta say when they talk. I think you can do that, little fella? I'll try. Thank you, Cliff. We walk for about 30 more minutes through the woods before we come upon a clearing. There's a pen of livestock to the left where woolly animals graze. A large, round structure sits ahead of us. It looks like a dome covered in earth with a doorway. I certainly haven't ever seen anything like it. Cliff is making strange noises behind me. Avery shuffles a bit. He calls out in a language I don't understand, and the reedy voice of a woman meets it. The door of the dwelling opens, and a very old elk comes out to meet us. She wears a plain apron, and her hands are red with what looks like clay. She looks back and forth at all of us, folds her brow, growing folds her inner brow growing prominent, then looks towards Avery, speaking slowly and calmly in that language. I think that's not a typo. Avery laughs and replies in a carefree way. Let me just put that in paint as well. She does not return the laugh. Then, it cannot be helped. Her accent is thicker than Avery's is. I already know Jebediah. To the rest of you, I am Manaba. My son tells me you met something evil in the woods. You must stay in my home for as long as you may stay in my home as long as you like, so long as you give as much as you take. And as long as you don't bring what you met in the woods inside. She disappears into the door. Not a single slaughtering beast among us at present, so we're good. Murdoch crosses his arms. Do you think she was being literal? The horse grunts. Yes and no. She means that the evil in our heads can upset the harmony in our home. Home is a sacred place. As long as we are calm, she'll let us stay. There's nothing to worry about. So then, what am I supposed to do? Right. What the fuck? That doesn't reassure me at all. Jeb has a nervous look on his face too. Cliff and Murdoch don't. Jebediah, okay. One last thing. Make sure you go clockwise when you enter and leave the Hugin. Why? Because it's like the sun. Oh, so you already know? Well, I believe the idea is that actually moving with the sun bolsters the natural order of the universe. This contributes to harmony. Well, sure. But there's practicality to it too. When your home is just one room, going in one order makes it feel bigger. Speaking of practicality, are we gonna go inside? Avery smiles and walks up to the doorway, opening it. Seems bigger than it was on the outside. The first thing I see when I pass through is a big fire pit in the center of the room. The floor is bare dirt, but many woven rugs. Most of them line the walls, made of from branches. Wait, is he branches? Those are thick branches. Oops. So is the ceiling, but there's a big hole at the top, letting light in from the outside. Manaba sits on the floor, pushing red clay between a slab and a smooth rock. Another elk sits to the north, handling the threads of a loom. He's big, but he looks very old, and he speaks to Manaba again in that language. She responds quietly, calmly, but looks more preoccupied with the clay she's making. The big elk hums to himself. My name's Gad, for the strangers among you. Need me to tell him the rules, Pa? He tilts his antlers away from the loom, take a proper look at us through his glasses. Rules? I always forget we have those. The chores are still the same. I'm sure you remember those. Avery scratches his head nervously, as if he's suddenly remembering. Strangers, would you give me your names? Clifford Tibbets, I'm so happy to meet your acquaintance. I'm not so bubbly as this one, but charmed all the same. Murdoch Brines. Right? Yeah. Just Sam. Don't know why they're making it so official. And now, you're no longer strangers. Neat trick, He's still preoccupied himself with his weaving. We haven't had this many visitors in a long time. You can do better than that. The old woman is grinning about something. I feel my eyebrow lifting. But then, you'd be closer to finishing than me. And that wouldn't do. I look back to her hands, dunking in a pitcher of water, then to his hands flipping through the loom strands carefully. It dawns on me that they're competing. They keep at it for at least another minute with tense concentration until I hear a small rip. Gad sighs and Manaba smirks. Very well, I can't recover from that. He starts looking from expression to expression in the room. I can tell by your faces that you're all feel apprehensive. I'll trade stories for stories to help with that. He looks to Jeb, then his son, then the two fishermen. Tell me what happened in the woods, but do not speak of any death. Jeb looks upset, but Avery cleared the silence. I was coming to see you both, but for these two, it started as an ordinary fishing trip. We were ambushed by the river, and one of our party was taken. We thought we saw the beast that did it, but seems every person saw something different. I saw a vast, greedy fish that flopped like a mudskipper, only faster than any I'd seen before, but its big, milky eyes looked diseased. We met this group near the riverside. Jebs told me his wagon got attacked, and he lost his jennies. Same thing happened to us, more or less. Were you folk traveling from the north? South, from Echo. Gad stops weaving, and his expression meets Jeb's. You don't usually have problems coming that way. Usually don't. Enough to do, though. What was different this time? Jeb looks like he's thinking. The marks on the trees weren't there anymore. Reliable landmarks weren't the same. One of ours said the trees looked different, that they could see things that shouldn't normally be there. Trying not to get too descriptive. We have always told travelers to fish to the north, not the south. I know that. There haven't been problems until now. Fish forgets, soil doesn't. Flesh forgets, soil doesn't. She puts the red clay from her slab and puts it in the ceramic bowl, folding it into the sides. There's something relaxing about her pushing the clay in, folding and spinning slowly, almost like it's dough. Wish her words were just as relaxing. North? You know, I've noticed that there aren't many Maseta people who live in Echo. There's a few, and this one. He jerks his head to his son. Avery looks a little flustered. There's work there that pays well. I still think not enough for the risk. I can't help but feel it's a sore spot. It reminds me of how Cynthia won't talk about it either. We avoid going there to sell, even with all the buyers. There are too many evil stories about that land. Much that we don't like to talk about it, such that we don't like to talk about it. So then, why are we talking about it? Because we are afraid for you. The elk looks at his wife curiously. I'm not afraid for him. He's strong and intelligent. Our fathers were great warriors, Manaba. She says something that makes Gad's brow furrow. Avery winces. This bowl is ready for firing. She dusts off her apron, and she stands, looking among the crowd of people and waving. Goodbye. I hear Cliff make a noise. Might I watch this process? Yes. She picks up several clay bowls and hands them to the weasel, whose hands quickly fill up. He looks terrified of dropping any. I don't think he expected to be participating. Follow. With a look of fear, he follows her out the door. Murdoch gives me a look. I have to see this. The fox leaves the building. Avery, his two companions, and Jeb sort of look at me. What? Mind joining them? There's some air of anticipation, like they want to talk to Gad in private. Don't have to ask twice. Thanks. I walk out the door and see Murdoch, Cliff, and Madaba huddled around what looks like a small pit in the ground. So you let the embers burn for hours before stacking the ceramics? And then you pile more wood to light the second fire to bake the clay? Extraordinary. Just extraordinary. You speak very fast. I'm sure every piece is to be treasured. These are just for when we eat. Practical pieces. I consider them art. Not art. Cliff hums. Surely you must admit that there is something sacred to this, yes? All things natural are sacred. I think what you call art, you put into a room, and you have people look with just their eyes. In a manner of speaking, yes, for the sake of public awareness. What we make, we use, or we sell, or we trade. The act of making influences respect. Respect for making turns into patience. Patience. Eyes alone do not teach patience. She looks at me and Murdoch. Sorry, yawn. You both bring me 2 logs from the pile. She looks at Cliff. You bring me 5. Why do I have to bring more? They're bigger than me. They have shared more of themselves by their silence than you have but with your words. Cliff grimaces, but he doesn't argue and walks over to the log pile with determination in his eye. Whoa, it actually worked? Maybe I should tell Cliff to go make a fire pit more often. 2 logs coming up. When I get to the pile, I whistle. These are chunky. Murdoch looks at the pile too and lets out a one-note laugh. It's like if your thighs were made out of wood. Cliff isn't paying attention to us as he hefts one of the logs, panting as he carries the first one back to the fire. I bend over to pick up 2 logs and hold them over my shoulder. The logs are long, awkwardly shaped, and even I feel a bit winded by their weight. Murdoch looks at me with some skepticism. I think I'll do this one at a time. Probably wise. I wink, and he addresses me with a look. I set the logs down by the fire, feeling a grunt escape my body from the sudden decrease in all of that weight. When Cliff and Murdoch's first log arrives, she puts them in the embers, stacking them over the pottery with a triangle formation. The wood is so dry that it doesn't take long for the logs to smoke. By the time Cliff brings his last log, he's heaving hard, and the flame takes to the wood. The smoke gets thick, enough to look cloudy. 4 hours. She stands and starts hobbling back to her front door of the Hugin. When I go through the doorway again, I see Jeb and Avery's group are sitting on the rug against the wall, discussing something in a low voice. Gad is stoking the fire in the center of the room, and Manaba is pouring what looks like a small amount of oil from a jar into a big cast iron pot. Did you bring fresh fish? The bass was big today. Help me clean them. I will fry them with the bread, peppers too. We will eat in 1 hour. An hour? Why don't you tell a story while they wait? He crosses his arms and tilts his antlers. Could you just tell us a story about Echo? His lips purse. We said we don't speak about that land. I know. I was just curious why. Do they know things that they aren't willing to talk about? All you need to know about that land is that it's unnatural. But what does that really mean? If you ask again, I'll have to take that as an attack upon our home, and I'll have to ask you to leave. The mood in the room shifts from lively to something more tense and quiet. I didn't mean to sour the evening, but if these people know something that we don't, maybe it's possible that they could help us? You seem to think that we hide secrets. The truth is that part of what protects us is knowing little about evil things. I can tell you only one story about Echo, but it does not involve the unnatural. At least, not directly. The real boundaries of that land have been known to my grandfather's grandfather, not the men who think in maps and railroads. Near the year 1600 in your calendar, it's said that a band of warriors found locations where Mother Earth could cradle them and Father Sky couldn't be blotted out. Bonfires were their beacons. The chanting and the dancing roused their spirits. It's said even our most foolish warrior could whistle at these places at night with nothing to fear. I don't necessarily believe that part, though. You're not supposed to do that, you know. Gives away your position. But, as they said, it was difficult to fear death when you were surrounded by loved ones. But the funny thing about these places is that they weren't keeping track of them. They had no reason to keep track of them. To be meseta means to wander. Our people weren't used to staying put. Staying put is more of a modern thing. Access to food keeps changing. But sometimes it is known that the best thing to do was to leave your home behind and start new elsewhere. Bonfires were more of a nod to the peace of mind than anything else. So these warriors made many bonfires in their time, and so did their children, and so did their children's children. New ones are made by younger people from time to time, but you can still find the site of a lot of the old ones. Eventually, our people did have to start paying attention to the maps and borders. Oral history would always be more important, and we had that too. Conquerors came with flags telling us where we could and couldn't be. And not just one flag either. No, there were many flags. But that's irrelevant. That's less relevant, right? What was relevant was that maps and borders became necessary to avoid wanton death. My father, who was the descendant of one of those original warriors, or so he said, kept a lot of these maps and updated them as they changed. Usually, his concern were the locations of the hostile armed colonies. But he had a hobby of marking down the bonfires over the years. I think it was just a thing that put his mind at ease. Just a thing to do. But over time, he felt less at ease, because he found thousands of those sites. Gad reaches behind him and opens a wooden trunk. He rifles through some cloth and some satchels until he pulls out a cylindrical container. He plucks what looks like to be a folded piece of animal skin and starts to unfold it on his lap. Yeah, that's a thing. I see drawings of rivers, names of places, and topographies. But the other thing I see is little red X's marked on the skin. So many little red X's. Strange that when you look at so many of the fires put on the map, they never appear inside the circle. What the fuck? What the fuck? It's quiet enough in the room to hear insects outside right now. But Murdoch's making clicking sound. I turn to look at him. It's the sound of his teeth clicking together inside his mouth. He's shaking. On the map, the people of Echo say that the border of their territory looks like a strange shape. But the Meseta know that it's a circle. Manaba grabs Gad's shoulder tightly. She crouches down as if to whisper in his ear. Then she plants a kiss on his cheek. Gad starts laughing, and Manaba brings him to his feet. So, it's like I said. I can tell you the things we know about the outside of that place. But we still remain willingly ignorant of what is inside. I've had enough stories for tonight. Let's play some music. Music, you say? He perks up, paws folded on his lap. Good ears on this one. Yes, music. Pardon, sir. It's just that, despite all my years of research on the subject, I've never heard a Meseta song before. Research? He gives Cliff a puzzled look. The weasel's face falls, wringing his paws, brows twitching. It's for... How do I put this? Avery raises his hand. Mr. Tippets here is writing a book about the Regent Paw. I see. Gad seems content with that answer, but the look on Manaba's face tells me she isn't buying it one bit. I think we could only use some music after today. Saved by the Fox. Aren't you curious about the music, Sam? He gives me a pleading look. I nod, even though my mind's on anything but music right now. My eyes fall on the map, packed away in a cylindrical container once more. The entire room, the entire region, so natural that these folks don't even want to talk about it. What even is Echo? That settles it then. We have some time until dinner. The old oak turns his head to Manaba. Will you join me, my dear? You know the word's better. Will you be able to keep up this time? I can try. Gad smiles at her, and Manaba responds in kind. He takes a wooden flute from the table and puts it to his lip. It looks small in his massive hands. Cliff watches the two intently, jaw slack, eyes wide, like he's in a trance. The bear and the kit fox, who had been whispering amongst themselves moments before, fall silent as well. Before long, I can only hear the cicadas buzzing outside. The flute sound rings loud through the hookah as Gad plays the first notes of the song. Putting her hand on his shoulder, Manaba joins him, gently swaying as she sings. While I can scarcely understand what she's singing about, her voice is beautiful, and I can feel my fur standing on end just listening to her. It's better than any song I've heard the drunk sing at the hip, that's for damn sure. The image of the map slips out of my mind. I take a deep breath. Gad's fingers float across the flute as he tries to keep up with Manaba. Once Manaba reaches what I assume is the chorus. The size of his hands isn't making it easy on him. I close my eyes and listen. My mind wanders. For the first time in days, if not weeks, the thought of what happened in the mine leaves a space in the back of my mind. I feel lighter somehow. A little part of me hopes they don't stop playing. We're gonna scene transition? I think that's a good time to call it since we're pretty much at the 30-minute mark and it's a scene change. So anyways, please comment, because I like comments, if you like, dislike, tips, as always. If you like my YouTube and would like to see it grow, then please like, subscribe, and check out the rest type of grow, and please remember to spay your animals type of control the pet population. And if you want to play this game, if you're on itch.io, if you want to support the people that make this game and or get the newest version earlier, go to their Patreon. And until next time, let's wait. Me, GamerWolfSix of the Smoke Room. So thanks and see ya.